All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to History and Music, the podcast, our first inaugural episode after the introduction.
Where we're not actually, trying to tell you what in the hell we're trying to do with this.
Yeah.
All right, Dave, which one are we going over today?
Okay, this one's going to be kind of a long and in-depth. A lot of them are not going to be this long. There's a lot to unpack here. That would be The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
All right.
Gordon Lightfoot song written in 76.
And the original sinking was what?
75.
75. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking it was only about a year.
Yes. The story behind the music is fascinating as well, but I've done a little deep dive here, and oh boy, there's a lot to unpack. I start with a ship, the SS Edmund Fitzgerald. All right. She was contracted in 1957.
And not USS, because USS would declare that it was an actual Navy ship.
Right. She was a stateside ship. I think that's what SS is. I don't know. Somebody correct me later. She was contracted in 57 by the Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance Company. They had started to expand out, and that was one of their investments, was shipping.
Wait, they were started by an insurance company?
Yes, they were. And in fact, the Edmund Fitzgerald was named for the president and chairman of the Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance Company. He didn't necessarily like that, but they went with it anyway. Now, she was 729 feet long, 75 feet wide. That length is very specific.
Yes, it is.
The reason is she was built to go through St. Saul Marie passage. And the ship's maximum length could only be 730 feet. So they built her 1 foot short so that she could go through there. And she kept that title, as the Queen of the Lakes until 1959, when the USS Murray Bay was built at 730 feet. Yeah, now she could haul 27,500 long tons. I don't know what the hell a long ton is exactly. It's more than a 2,000-pound ton.
And if I wasn't, recording this video on my phone right now, I could probably look that up for you.
But she was originally a coal-fired ship, and she was converted in winter of 71, 72 during her layover. She had 2 guest staterooms that were very luxurious for a freighter. She had things like air conditioning that extended into the crew's quarters, something that was basically unheard of at this time. But like I said, she was also called, Queen of the American Side, the Queen of the Lakes, the Pride of the American Side, and Big Fitz. She had nicknames.
Well, most ships do.
She was captained by Ernest M. McSorley, called the DJ Captain.
Oh, that's interesting.
He would pipe music out of the pilot house to speakers he had outside as he passed near the shore, and he did it a lot. Apparently, it was a very common thing, and if he was going by the shore, he would also tell the people on the shore about the ship. And he was a very, very cool dude. But yeah, they called him the DJ Captain because he blasted music out of the pilot house. Cool.
Hey, yeah, sounds pretty neat. All right, getting into the actual song.
Okay.
When it starts off, and it's that nice low, kind of slow rolling song. It was actually used by another band in the 80s after Gordon Lightfoot wrote it. He used, but when he wrote the song, he used an old Irish dirge for the actual melody of the song. Well, in that melody of the song, since he just used an old Irish dirge, someone else in another song, I cannot remember the name of the song right now. I'll have to look it up here in a minute. But it was...
I have notes.
Yeah, you have notes. But another band in the 80s actually came out with a song and used the same melody. I mean, it was pretty much copied exactly. I mean, note for note.
Did not know that.
And when somebody came out and said, no, Gordon Lightfoot wrote that back in '76, and they went up and asked Gordon Lightfoot about, okay, aren't you going to copyright this or anything like that? You can. They stole your melody for this song, and he said, it's just an old Irish dirge that I used. Me trying to copyright that would be just stupid.
So he copyrighted the lyrics.
He copyrighted the lyrics,
but
yes,
not
but not the
actual
actual musical melody.
Interesting.
Because he figured he'd taken it from an old Irish dirge. If somebody else wanted to use the melody and everything, then why couldn't he?
Let's go. Did not know that. That is cool.
Then it rolls into, and the legend lives on from the Chippewa on down, of the big lake they call Gitche Gumee,
which is the Ojibwe. It's a bastardization of the Ojibwe term. Gitche Guma is what I found at GUMA. Means Great Sea.
Yes, but that was still talking about Lake Superior.
Right.
And with that going along into it, after that in the song, it's Superior, it is said, never gives up her dead when the gales of November come early. Right. Well, the legend is not talking about the lake. The legend is talking about from even the Native Americans at the time, before the British and the colonies and everything came over. The lake was called Gitche Gumee, which is the bastardization of the Native American tribes, but the legend is actually talking about the gales of November, when the lake never gives up her dead, when the gales come early.
Right.
And that's where the actual legend part of that comes in.
Okay, and of course this is early 10th of November, 1975 is when she went down.
Yes.
She had steamed out of Superior, Wisconsin at 2:15 p.m. on the 9th of November, en route to Zug Island near Detroit with a cargo of 26,100 tons of taconite. It's iron ore pellets.
That's what they called it?
Taconite. Yep.
Taconite, okay. It's funny that they named something tack and put it on a ship.
Yeah. Now, the weather forecast was for a storm to pass south of Detroit by 7 a.m. on the 10th. Yeah, that didn't work.
No. I mean, meteorology is basically this is our best guess.
This is the mid-'70s, yeah.
Yeah.
We called them weather guessers. The National Weather Service had changed its forecast at 7 p.m., issuing a gale warning for all of Lake Superior. So the ship encountered a winter storm at 1 a.m. on the 10th. All right, she reported winds of 60 miles an hour and waves at 10 feet. She's a big ship. 10-foot waves, not that big a deal.
Well, with the fact that she was carrying, 26,000 tons,
right.
Would that not have...
Well, I mean...
That would also mean that she'd be riding lower in the water than she would normally.
Well, she was built to handle that load. And Captain McSorley was known as a foul weather captain. He had captained 7 or 8 other ships before the Edmund Fitzgerald. He was 63, getting ready to retire at the end of 1975. That was his plan. He was a seasoned foul weather captain. But, let's see. At 2 a.m., the National Weather Service updated its warning from gale to storm. Storms on the lakes. I grew up around a lake you could see across.
Mm-hmm. And a storm on a lake there is still...
Yeah, it's just a rainstorm.
Yeah.
We're talking about lakes that look like oceans when you're standing on one shore and you can't see the other shore.
Yeah.
So these are big. This is a big storm. This is a big deal now. Now at 3 p.m. the next day, they radioed the Arthur Anderson, another ship that had left about the same time from the same port, that they were taking on water and had lost 2 vent covers and a fence railing. When I read that, I wasn't sure about the fence railing, except I'm assuming they're talking about the railing around the ship.
Maybe.
But that's the way it came across. So she had already developed a list. A list, my dad's Navy, means you're tipped sideways a little bit.
Yeah. Instead of riding straight in the water, you're doing this.
When you got 26,000 tons and you have a list, that can be
an issue, yeah.
So at that point, the U.S. Coast Guard had warned all shipping that they should that Soo locks were closed and they should seek safe anchorage. Now, they're basically in the middle of Lake Superior, so what they did, Arthur Anderson and the Edmund Fitzgerald, is they headed towards the North Shore to try to avoid the storm.
Where they were talking about if she'd have made Whitefish Bay.
Now that is at the end, yes.
Yes.
That was where they were trying to get to. But this is kind of the afternoon of the 10th. At 4:39 p.m., Captain McSorley contacted the U.S. Coast Guard to inquire whether the Whitefish Point light and navigational beacons were working. The Coast Guard replied that both were inactive.
So the power went out, or
right.
The guy fell asleep and the wind blew out the candle.
Yeah. 75. They weren't candles, brother. I was.
Some of them old lighthouses, they were still like fire powered until I think it was the 70s or 80s when the last one was actually changed over to electric.
Well, they were probably carbide, but not candles. So somewhere between 5 and 5:30.
You do still realize I'm the one that's editing this, right?
Yes, I know. In a radio call with Captain Cedric Woodard of the Avafors, AVAFORS, he reported that he had a bad list and had lost both radars and was taking seas over the deck.
I did watch one thing on it not too long ago after we first started talking about doing this, where they were talking about and they did all this testing and everything along with it, where they showed that a rogue wave, and what creates a rogue wave would be the wind builds up on the one side and just keeps blowing in the same direction. Well, that just makes that wave get larger and larger and larger and larger. And if they were having 20-foot waves just because of the storm itself, a rogue wave would have been over 50 feet tall.
Oh, we're getting to that.
Okay, well, we'll put that one off for later. But
okay,
getting back into the actual music of it.
Okay.
And I also just realized that I'm going to have to friggin' at least have the lyrics down for it, because this breaking it up and doing it like we're doing is making it to where I'm having to break it up and like keep trying to replay it in my head. And I actually got the lyrics wrong earlier. It's not Superior never gives up her dead. It's the lake it is said never gives up her dead when the skies of November turn gloomy.
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, I actually got that wrong. And then with the load of iron ore, 26,000 tons more than the Edmund Fitzgerald weighed empty. We've already talked about, it was 26 long tons, whatever. Okay, a long ton is actually 2,240 pounds.
Okay.
And a short ton is the 2,000 pounds. Okay, so that explains the difference between a long ton and a short ton.
Obviously, these are English measurements. We don't use metric for some damn reason. That's what you get.
And it actually shows the metric on here. It's a long ton is 2,240 pounds, or 1,016 kilograms. And then you have the ton, not T-O-N, but T-O-N-N-E, which is a metric ton, is, of course, 1,000 kilograms.
Okay.
1,000 kilograms, which is only about 2,204 pounds.
Right.
It actually says 2,204.6 pounds. Or 1 megagram. We're getting into we're getting into stuff that I okay.
Right.
And then a short ton, which is 2,000 pounds, which is 907.2 kilograms.
Okay. So a long ton is 2,200 plus pounds.
2,240 pounds. So it's 240 pounds more than what normal Americans think of as a ton.
Right.
Which is just the standard 2,000 pounds.
Right. Okay.
But that good ship and true was a bone to be chewed. When the gales of November came early, that's where I was getting it mixed up. I just kind of smashed everything together there.
Okay.
Then the ship was the pride of the American side. America's pride.
One of her nicknames.
Yep. The nickname.
Right. The Toledo Torpedo. Mm-hmm. Pride of the American side, or the pride of the American flag. I've seen both.
And where did you say they sailed out of? I think you said Superior, Wisconsin, didn't you?
I think I did. They left Superior, Wisconsin at 2:15 p.m.
Yep. Coming back from some mill in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So so far we're right on track with it being, pretty much historically accurate. The song too.
Yes.
So far. I know we haven't gotten into some of the other stuff.
Right.
Then, as the big freighters go, it was bigger than most. You just said it was bigger other than one, which was 730 feet long instead of 729.
Which is wild.
Yep. With the crew and good captain well seasoned.
That is correct.
Yep. And if he was known as a, gloomy weather captain.
That's correct.
Or a foul weather captain.
He was 63. He went into the sea service as a saltwater crewman at 18. Worked his way up through all the ranks, went up through.
Worked as a yeoman and a first mate and all that.
Second mate, first mate, and became one of the youngest sea captains ever at that time.
Okay.
He was a very young sea captain. And like I said, he captained, I think it was 8 or 9 ships before he took over the Edmund Fitzgerald. I said 7 or 8, but
yeah.
So he was a very seasoned captain.
Yeah, if it was his 9th ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good bit of seasoning.
Yes.
Then, concluding some terms with a couple of steel firms when they left fully loaded for Cleveland, and they were going for Cleveland.
Correct. That way.
Well,
yes.
Out there, I'm pretty sure, if you're going by Cleveland, but that's not your final destination, you're probably going to stop in Cleveland for at least a night anyway.
They were offloading at Zug Island. That is where they were going to offload the Titanite, which is right outside of Cleveland somewhere. I don't know the geography, or I'm not familiar, but
don't you throw geography on me too. I'm already having to look through all the lyrics of the songs and everything, and of course this thing decides it wants to go black screen, which it does. And later that night when the ship's bell rang, could it be the north wind they'd been feeling? On the day they set out, yeah, because you said at 7 p.m. on the 9th is when they changed it, saying there was going to be storms on.
Right. And the winds had shifted. This was reported by the other captain I'd mentioned earlier, that they both ended up in the eye of the storm. They'd seen the wind shift from the north to the northwest, northeast, but they'd seen the wind shift. They ended up in the eye, and the Edmund Fitzgerald was struggling. There were several radio contacts between Captain McSorley and the Arthur, did I say? The Arthur Anderson, the ship, the Arthur Anderson. There were several contacts. At one point, Captain McSorley had radioed and said he'd lost radar. So he was trying to get the Arthur Anderson to close in and guide him with his radar to help him. They were just trying to get to calmer waters, Whitefish Bay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where it would actually be in a protected area.
Right. And that didn't work.
Apparently not. And where you were talking about the wind shifting around,
right?
Because of course, if they're going through the eye of the storm, yeah, you're going to see the wind on one side going north, and then you're going to see it turn northeast, and then you're going to see it turn east, and then you're going to see it turn southeast, and then south. And, yeah, and it's with that big thing going around you.
Like a hurricane. Yeah.
But in that next part of the song, it's talking about the wind in the wires made a tattletale sound, and a wave broke over the railing. And also talking about where you said, they called and
that
said,
railing.
Yeah.
The fence was broken.
Yeah.
He had reported that waves had washed over the deck.
Now that to me sounds more like a wave broke over the railing. That would be, a wave breaks at the top of it. So a wave broke over the railing. So that's when they first had water coming over the deck.
Right.
Then, and every man knew, as the captain did too, 'twas the witch of November come stealing.
Yep.
You and your touchpad disabling thing. Then the dawn came late and the breakfast had to wait. Well,
okay.
Of course you can't cook. You can't cook on a ship during a storm. You can, but it's a good way to probably set the friggin' kitchen on fire.
Okay. And here is where I say that's poetic license.
Well,
we don't know.
Well, no, we're not getting into that yet.
Right.
Because we're still
right.
We're still a little bit away from where he was talking about the cook. But the dawn came late. It's a storm, of course.
Right.
The sun isn't going to come up for a good long while in a dark storm.
I feel, sir, it's all hands on deck.
And you can't cook on a ship in a storm.
Right.
Not a storm like this that we're talking about. Yeah. Because with the ship doing this and the waves, like I said, that's a good way to set fire to the kitchen or kill your cook.
And fires on ships they're
bad.
That's a very bad thing.
Then, and of course, when the gales of November come slashing, when afternoon came, it was freezing rain in the face of a hurricane west wind.
Right.
So at this point in time, they're coming into, and the west wind is, if it's a westerly wind, that's going to line up pretty much with Lake Superior and give the chance of this rogue wave.
And there were reports. Like I said, the National Weather Service called this a storm, but there were reports of winds sustained at 78 miles an hour, gusts up to 86. We're talking about hurricane force winds.
Yeah, hurricane force winds started sustained of 75. Yeah. So
we are talking about hurricane force winds. This was a monster storm.
Yeah.
So to go back to kind of, and we should, I don't know.
Now we're right there at that poetic license.
Okay.
For the lyrics of the song.
I'm going to state now, this song is absolutely, Gordon Lightfoot did an amazing job here. But after the radar failures, at 4:39, Captain McSorley contacted U.S. Coast Guard. He had actually contacted the Coast Guard to check out the lighthouse. The last contact with the ship was the Arthur Anderson at about 7:10 p.m. when Captain McSorley reported, "We are holding our own." Those were his last words, and they are recorded. She was never heard from again.
After 7:10 that night?
At 7:10.
Okay, because then going to the lyrics on this one, yes, this is the, you called it the poetic license.
Right.
You know,
he's writing a song.
Needing filler, for lack of a better word at this point in time.
Right.
But he needed a way to put in, a second verse.
Absolutely.
Even though the timing and everything on this, there's no real, with it being a ballad, there's no real verses and chorus.
Right.
With that verse, chorus
right.
break that you're used to in every other song.
Right.
This one is just
true ballad.
It's weird. But when supper time came, the old cook came on deck saying, "Fellas, it's too rough to feed you." At 7 p.m., when the main hatchway caved in, he said, "Fellas, it's been good to know you."
Right.
But yeah, he took the poetic license, and then when it said the main hatchway caved in, from what I've seen of, where they can't dive on the wreck because it's protected.
I'll get into that.
Yeah. But they can't actually dive on the wreck because it is a protected burial site.
It's a watery grave.
Yeah, a watery grave. But they've sent down, I don't want to call them drones, but they basically are, underwater drones that has taken
underwater vehicles, yes.
That has taken pictures and everything and gotten as close as they could legally get. They some of them probably got a little closer than they should have.
I will.
But it showed the hatchways were there. It did show that it was broken up at the bottom. But there's a lot of things that can lead to a ship being, split up at the bottom.
Right. All right. So,
and the captain wired in, he had water coming in, and the good ship and crew were in peril. But if his last thing was saying,
yeah, that's,
we are holding our own.
I think what he had already talked to the captain of the Arthur Anderson, saying that they had water coming into the holds. They were listing when he spoke to the Coast Guard. They had a heavy list, but they were holding their own. That was the last radio contact. So at about 9:03, she was officially listed. The Arthur Anderson called in to the U.S. Coast Guard and said, "This ship is missing. We cannot see the lights. We can't find her on radar. She's gone."
And that's when, later that night, when the ship's lights went out of sight, came the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Right. Basically, yeah, the lights went out of sight, and she was gone.
Yeah.
And
yeah, if they can't see her on radar, they can't see the lights anymore. Yeah, that's.
Now the U.S. Coast Guard reported they were tracking her on radar until, I don't remember the time now. I've looked this up. Like 7:30, but they kept seeing her, and she disappeared, and that was those waves.
Well, yeah, the waves are going to, when you hit the top of the wave.
Oh yeah, that your ship shines.
You can see the lights, and then when you dip down into the valley of the wave,
even on radar, when you're at the top, radar can see you. When you dip into the
down,
trough,
yeah,
radar
trough.
Can't
That's
see
the word
you
I was
anymore.
thinking of. I couldn't think of that. But then, yeah, radar can't see you because guess what? There's a bunch of water in the way.
Oh, that's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I didn't really know that she was actually found very quickly. She went down on the 10th. She was located on the 14th of November, 1975, by a.
It only took them 4 days?
Took them 4 days.
Okay.
U.S. Navy P-3 Orion, equipped with equipment to detect magnetic anomalies to hunt submarines.
That's
what
the P-3 is built for.
Yeah. But she was found in Canadian waters at a depth of 530 feet.
You took 2 pages there.
I did. But there are, and yes, she was 17 miles from Whitefish Bay. Had she made Whitefish Bay,
she'd have been in calmer
in
waters,
calmer waters.
because bays that's what they are. They're like natural harbors.
Right.
They protect what's in the waters in the bay.
The waters are calmer than the open water.
Yeah.
Right.
Because out there in the open water, it just goes absolutely freaking
Now,
ape shit, for lack of a better word. But
and so there have been several dives on the boat, and I'm going to list some of them. So from the 20th of May to 28th of May in 1976, the U.S. Navy dived on her with
hold on. Because you said the thing about Whitefish Bay. You said it was 17 miles from Whitefish Bay?
That's what
and
is official.
Okay. And in the song, does anyone know where the love of God goes when the waves turn the minutes to hours? Which, if anybody has actually been in a, life or death situation where, been in a firefight or been...
Time goes.
Yeah, there's that time dilation.
Right.
Where, everything slows down, and the waves turn the minutes to hours. Been there, done that. I know that feeling, and it's it's pretty.
We both
hectic.
have, and shit starts going south. It really does seem like
everything.
Forever.
It takes forever
until right afterwards, and you think it happened just like that.
Yep.
While it's going on,
but in that moment and while everything's happening, it's
time dilation.
It's that time dilation of bullet time, to use a video game reference.
Right.
Yeah. Bullet time.
When you can see things coming towards you that you shouldn't be able to see.
And technically, you're not.
Right.
But
afterwards,
in your head, you're like, nope, I saw that come. And no. But the time dilation for that, he's talking about that. We know what that's like. So,
right.
I wouldn't say that's poetic license. That's Gordon. That's Gordon Lightfoot. Either had some friends that knew some of this, or he's experienced it himself.
To these sailors, this must have felt like days.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
We're looking at 18 hours of a storm. It must have literally felt like days just being hammered by this damn storm.
And okay, if it took out both their radars, well, their radars are going to be, on the top, right next to what else is going to be on the top? Their radio antenna. Now, the radio antenna is basically, it's an antenna. It's basically just a big piece of metal that they use to send stuff out. But if waves were getting high enough to take out the radars, they would have been, and you keep getting pounded with that all day. Water and wind are two things that I will never underestimate, especially after the hurricane and everything that we had here.
Helene. Yeah. We're from the mountains of North Carolina.
We're in Boone, North Carolina. But wind and water are two things I will never underestimate. Because, you can build things to withstand a certain degree, but you can't build things to, and then say, wind won't knock it over, wind won't blow it away, water won't knock it over, water won't take it away.
I feel like
if Mother Nature wants that building gone, that building is going to go. It might hold on for a little bit longer than most, but
and I feel like it was probably, the radars are probably wind, because the radar would have been on top of the pilot house. Mm-hmm. For the most part, the pilot house probably didn't submerge. Well, at some point, obviously, it did, but I feel like...
once it actually sank.
Yes, but I feel like the pilot house is probably above water most of the time. So the wind is probably what got it. I'm only speculating because, like I said, we're dealing basically with hurricane force winds. These ships aren't necessarily built for that kind of wind. Nothing
that amount of wind, that amount of water, anything.
Yeah, anything. She was a well-built ship. But
but and then the song continues on. The searchers all say they'd have made Whitefish Bay if she'd put 15 more miles behind her.
she was 17.
17 miles, but
But honestly,
if she'd put,
it works better in the song. Honestly,
if
I'm
she'd
okay
have
with
put
that.
15,
If
17,
she'd have made that 15 miles, she probably would have made it into Whitefish Bay. The 2 extra miles might not have been a difference.
but then
She
again,
was physically 17 miles. From
but then
Whitefish
again,
Bay.
would it also have been, if they made 15 miles, but they already been told by the Coast Guard that, hey, the lights are out, the lantern is out, the lights are out, you can't see it at
Okay.
Whitefish Bay.
Okay.
And if they'd have been going in there, could they have actually been able to see and make out, okay, this is the way into the bay, or would they have run on the rocks?
I feel like because this other ship was kind of ghosting them, trying to, they might have been able to pilot her in. And the other thing I read was that there was a report from another ship that said that the lighthouse was still working. The navigational beacon was actually down. So there's
Okay, so that
contradictory.
would have just been a radio thing.
Well, but they could have seen a lighthouse.
Yeah.
So
okay, so yeah, if
so
the lighthouse
captain,
was there,
right?
then they
He
could
have.
have.
He was a seasoned enough captain. Had he been able to see a lighthouse, he'd have known from his charts how to
get
the
in.
ship.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
there's some contradictory reports.
If the lighthouse was still there, yeah, he could have made it in.
Right.
But it was still 15 miles away from where he actually went down.
That's correct.
And both of us rode bikes before. It's not the speed that kills you; it's that suddenly becoming stationary.
that sudden stop at the bottom.
Yeah.
Right?
But ships, they pretty much travel in straight lines, but they can still only go so fast.
Her top speed was about 17 miles an hour.
17 miles an hour, so her top speed was like 9 or 10 knots.
14 knots, yeah. At that lowest speed, she was not
Yeah,
fast.
it's pretty.
They're close, but
they're close, but
she wasn't.
I don't know. It's been years since I've had to do those calculations.
Yeah. No.
And okay, another thing on that, we're getting into the English side of it, which is another part that I have to kind of take over on. Yeah. English major. Woo. English. I'm the English major. You do the math. Actually, you do the math. But a knot. It stands for basically a nautical mile per hour, which you've seen latitude and longitude. Well, a nautical mile is 1 minute. How every degree is broken up into 60 minutes. 1 minute of longitude, because latitude, the distance changes depending on where you're at on the Earth. But longitude, where it goes from North Pole to South Pole, all of them are the same. So a nautical mile is the measure of 1 minute of longitude. So it's 1/60th of a degree of longitude.
Okay. All right.
At what is considered to be sea level.
Right. And nautical is NAU, and knot is KNOT.
KNOTT.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. It's not.
It's normally in English, in American,
yeah.
It's KNOT.
Yes. But the.
Correct, I know.
And correct, you want to get into the British versus American, British English versus American English breakdown of it? No, I'm not going into all that. Now, why in the world they want to put in an extra U and everything? I have no idea, but didn't.
Anyway.
Yeah, we're not getting into that.
All right. Now, you were saying that you couldn't dive on it.
Hold on, before we get into that, I'll go ahead and take care of the rest of that verse in the lyrics.
Okay.
Because if they put 15 more miles behind her, they'd have made Whitefish Bay. then they could have seen the lighthouse and done all that. If the lighthouse was even still working.
Right.
Contradictory reports and everything on that.
Right.
But then they might have split up, or they might have capsized. They might have broke deep and took water.
Going into that.
And all that remains are the faces and the names of the wives and the sons and the daughters. Now, during their dives, when they found the wreckage and they did the dives, did they find any of the bodies?
There was one found outside the ship. I don't know if he was like hung up to the ship or what, because typically you would think no, again, they're 530 feet, very deep. Bacteria don't do their thing so much at 530 feet.
No.
So he may not have floated, but they did, on one of the dives, they did see one body outside the ship in a life vest. So they at least knew there was danger. Hence the
actual life vest.
The cork, 6-pack cork life vest. So they at least knew there was danger, but that's the only body that was ever seen.
They were still using the 6-pack corks in the 70s?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's effective to an extent, but
cork floats.
Yeah. Well, yeah, cork floats.
As long as the canvas is good, pop to the top.
But
maybe.
Okay, so if he had that on,
I'm assuming he was hung up in something on the ship. The body was hung up, so he didn't float.
Well, also, if he was one of the ones that was actually like working out on the deck, and like had to be running back and forth or doing something like that, wouldn't they have had some sort of like rope system to keep you from getting washed over?
I have not seen anything about that. I don't know, I feel like they probably weren't on the decks any more than they had to be, because these aren't ships that require like fishing boats where they have to work with nets and hauling in lines and that kind of thing. This thing is hauling 26,000 tons of ore in the holds. So really all they have to do would maybe go check the hatches and that kind of thing. But other than that, they don't need to be outside.
True.
So,
yeah, because when I was up in Cleveland and I went to the history museum, or I can't remember the name of the museum right now. I will find that and I will put that down in the bottom here, because I've been to that museum, and the fact that I can't remember what it's called right now is bugging the snot out of me. But went in there, we went to the like the Natural Science Museum or something like that. But they also had one of the old iron haulers, like the Edmund Fitzgerald out back. You could pay a few extra bucks and go in there, and you actually got a tour of the ship. Okay. And
yes, please.
There were catwalks under the deck.
Right.
So you could make it from the front of the ship to the back of the ship without ever actually being on the deck, exposed to the elements.
Right.
But if something was going on and they were actually taking water through the hatches, the closures that they have for them, yeah, it's a big metal plate that slides over top of it, and then they clamp it down or they close.
Right.
But you still had physical clamps.
Right.
So could that have been somebody that, they noticed that they were taking on water through the hatches? Could he have been someone that went out to check to see if
dog the hatches,
to see if all the clamps were down and holding it down firmly, or
we'll never know, but we do know that there was one body seen. And I'm assuming, like I said, because he was wearing cork, he must have been somehow tied to the wreck, twisted into something. I don't know.
That's what I'm wondering, if he was like sent out there, so he's like running down with a carabiner and clipping off to the railing, and then all of a sudden a wave comes over and just knocks him senseless by slamming him into the rail, and then of course the wave just continues and takes him on over.
Right.
And then is he, then still just connected to the ship and he's unconscious, so he just drowns before they even sink?
It's hard to say.
It's a possibility. Now I know they haven't actually gone into the ship.
No. Well, not really.
They haven't gone. They haven't gone below decks.
Right. All right.
Yeah. I just smacked.
I'm gonna get into that. From in 1976, the U.S. dived on the wreck with an unmanned sub and found her lying in 2 large pieces.
And magically, we have refilled beers.
Ha! Nice. So, as I was saying, we'll get back to it. 1976, the U.S. Navy dived on a wreck with with an unmanned sub and found her lying in 2 large pieces. Now,
yes.
So she's broken up on the bottom. And I'll get into why that could be important in a minute, but there were several dives over the years. I didn't realize this, but they took photographs and video the whole time. These dives were in 76, like I mentioned above. Then in 1980, 1989, 1994, and then in 1995, the Bell was recovered using an atmospheric dive suit known as a newt suit. That dive, a newt suit.
A nuke suit.
Newt.
Newt.
N-E-W-T, newt suit.
Okay, I thought you said like N-U-K-E.
No. The Bell was retrieved and a replica was put back in its place with the 29 names of the crew
on the actual
ship. And they put a can of beer in the pilot house, which I thought that's that's some cool shit. I'm sorry, but
and that was what year when they put that in?
95.
95? Okay. So 25 years later?
Yeah.
No, 20 years later, excuse me. Once again, English major.
Now in 95, 2 divers, I didn't include their names, were using Trimix gas, and they scuba dived on the wreck. They are the only 2 people to have ever touched the Edmund Fitzgerald since she went down.
And that is once again due to the fact that if a ship goes down at sea, it is considered to be under international law, it is considered to be a watery grave. It is a grave site.
Okay. And as of 2005, the Ontario Heritage Act prohibits all dives within a protected range without a license, and they've not given a license.
So it was,
and others are now considered, because there are other sites as well, but they're considered watery graves.
Oh, okay.
So this happened in 2005.
It's not an international thing.
This was Canada, because she's in Canadian waters.
Okay.
Canada passed.
I was
Ontario
actually
Heritage Act.
I was actually thinking that was some sort of international maritime law thing.
No. Now, most nations do recognize watery graves, but in the ocean is the Wild West, hence why they've been able to go down and recover things off the Titanic, for instance.
Okay. Because that would be that's international waters. Yeah.
Right. So where the lakes are part of nations.
Mm. Yeah, so, we own out to a certain distance. Canada owns out to a certain distance. They pretty much meet there in the line.
Right. So, and there's been disputes over that line, and the ship really lies right on that line. And one of these dives actually happened when the line was moved a little bit.
Okay.
But the fines are substantial. It's $1 million fine, $1 million Canadian, to dive on that wreck if you decide to do that.
And $1 million Canadian would be like what, 1.2 million US? I want to say,
or 84 cents. I don't know how the.
No, Canadians. It's
more expensive. Whatever.
No, I'm thinking that backwards, because how you can always look at the book.
Yeah,
you can always look at a book and it says like $12.50 US, but it's like $14.50 Canadian or something like that. Yeah. Canadian's always higher, so it might. I think I've got that one backwards. So it might be only like 800,000.
Yeah. But, and I will say that
Conversion rates are weird.
Jacques Cousteau's son, Jean Cousteau, was, I think the 1980 dive was done with National Geographic and the Cousteau Society with Jean Cousteau as part of that. But they ended up with hours and hours of video footage just going around the wreck. 3D mapping it basically for the day. I mean, today would be a whole different thing if it was done, but they took enough video footage to get some really interesting ideas about why she sank. So,
okay,
why did she sink?
When I was looking and going and talking earlier about the rogue wave, when on one of those dives, they noticed that not the canopy, but like the awning that came off of the pilot house was actually like smashed down, and they were looking at it and doing all their physics calculations and all that, and talking about that. That's where the whole rogue wave thing came in, because you've got a 60, 70-foot wave coming down. When it breaks over that ship, all that water coming down is going to hit with some force. And they said it would have taken something about that size in order to actually, to do that sort of damage to the steel reinforced awning, as much as an awning can be reinforced.
Right.
But a steel awning that had supports on it, for it to be smashed down like it was, it had to have taken one hell of a hit.
No. All right. There are 5 or 6 theories. We don't know why she went down. Still don't know, never will, probably.
She might have split up, or she might have capsized. She may have broke deep and took water.
All right. And we're going to go through. First is just wind and weather. She was being pounded just constantly. Now, and we know she had a list. The captain reported she was listing. So she was taking on water in the holds. Now, if the pumps couldn't evacuate that water fast enough, one of the theories is she just took too much water and capsized. The problem with that theory, and I looked into it, is a capsized boat still has enough air in it to
remain afloat.
Afloat for a while. Now, everyone on board may perish, but she'll stay up and just do weird things. A capsized boat does weird things, but she'll float because there's air still in the hull. And if the holes were open,
like on Jaws 2, when that one little sailboat flipped over, yeah, it completely flipped over. You weren't able to, stay
right
on the deck of the boat, but it was still floating.
Right. And think about it: if a boat that has holes that are failed turns over, that oar's coming out.
Yeah.
So what air's in her is going to make her rise a little more. So the wind and the weather.
But then if
you
flip upside down, well, all of a sudden that 26,000 tons of taconite iron ore hits those hatchways, blows the hatchways open.
Well, again, we're theorizing
here. Yeah. Because
so wind and the weather is it's very likely.
I thought it said the hatchways were still there in a couple of the dives.
They were, and well.
So yeah, if the hatchways were there, then that kind of blows my.
These guys sometimes ran with those hatches not secured, yes. But the U.S. Coast Guard did say in one of their reports that there was no failure of the crew to secure the hatches. So what they've seen in the footage is the crew did not fail to do the right thing. Now, the rogue wave theory that you brought up. Mm. Now, a group of rogue waves known as the Three Sisters, Right? This was reported in the vicinity of the Edmund Fitzgerald at the time she sank. Captain Cooper of the Arthur Anderson reported being hit by two 35-foot waves with a possible third all headed to the Edmund Fitzgerald. These
But
waves
they were
were compounded by the reported list and slow speed, because she'd already reduced speed. Those rogue waves may have been enough to just
okay.
down.
So but if they were already having 20, 25-foot waves, for it to be actually considered a rogue wave,
10 more feet is a lot more wave.
10 more feet is a lot more wave, yes, but for it to actually be considered a rogue wave, it would have to be, I think it's like 2.5 or 3 times the size of the normal of what's already occurring.
We're already talking about waves at 25 feet on Lake Superior are 10 or 15 feet bigger than normal big waves on Lake Superior. We're already talking about big seas. And so they were seeing 25-foot seas. 35-foot waves would just be possibly
35.
more than she could take.
Yeah, 35 feet would take it to where
And
if she'd already been taken on
if
water.
it hit her on the bow or the stern, what would happen is it hits on the bow, she bows down, and and the next wave comes behind it and just pushes her down. That's a sudden thing. I think the rogue wave theory is probably one of the better ones, except for the cargo hold flooding. We already know she had a list. So she was taking on water. Now, all right, throw a couple of 35-foot waves on a ship that's already taking water, and that's a formula for disaster. I'm sorry, but
very much so.
That's not going to go well. And there's some other theories, the shoaling theory, and the shoaling theory is they hit a reef before she went down. Like I said, she's found in 530 feet of water, but there's dead man's, there's a couple of reefs within a few miles.
Are they actually reefs? Or
No, they're not coral reefs. They're sand. They're like below water
rock outcropping, stuff like that. Okay. Because I'm sitting there thinking, damn,
they're not
Great Lakes even have coral reefs? What the hell?
No, there's no coral reef, but there are reefs. The thing is, and I'm going to discount this one because I'm going to go with, and I don't remember who reported this, but of all the video footage, and they've got, like I said, hours and hours and hours of video footage of the hull, there's no evidence that she shoaled, where she scrubbed on the bottom of the boat, the propeller, and the rudder. None were damaged. So I think shoaling is one of the least likely.
But also, you said it was found at a depth of 530 feet.
That's correct.
But that also discounts the fact that she was 729 feet long. If one of those waves made her bow tip down so far, and then she just nosedived, her butt would still be sticking up in the air.
And here's the problem:
her stern would still be sticking in the air, but the front could actually hit the bottom. But if they didn't find any damage,
but what can happen is when you're that long and you've got 26,000 tons and your bow goes down, your stern is hanging up in the air.
Yeah.
And
that
at that point,
that could cause it to snap.
And that is one of the other theories, that she either got pushed on the stern of the bow and the structural failure.
She might have split up.
Might have broken. Yeah. Might have split up.
Because there was another person, not from the Edmund Fitzgerald. There were no survivors from the Edmund Fitzgerald, but there was I cannot remember the name of the boat right now, but he was also on the documentary. Not him. It was like his story of his other ship that was also on Lake Superior, and he was the only survivor from his ship. But he said when he was out there and on it, he watched the ship break in half, and it was just like going across the deck with the steel and the wood and everything on the deck. It ripped just like paper.
The same thing is reported to have happened to the Titanic when she bowed down. Mm-hmm. When the bow went down, the
rear end
stern,
snapped.
the fantail, just broke off. It's just so much stress. That thing's meant to sit in water
and be supported by the water as well.
Off she went.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you pick it up there, and yeah, it's gone.
Now.
Okay, now we are coming to the end here, folks. With everything, you've got to let me do this part because this is one of my favorite parts of the song.
Okay. Dig in, brother.
All right. Lake Huron rolls Superior, sings in the halls of her ice-water mansion. Old Michigan steams like a young man's dreams. The islands and bays are for sportsmen. And farther below, Lake Ontario takes in what Lake Erie can send her. And the iron boats go, as the mariners all know, with the gales of November remembered. A musty old hall in Detroit they pray. Actually, here's an interesting point on that one.
He changed that.
It's changed that.
The musty old hall.
It's not the musty old hall anymore. Now, on all of the old recorded versions,
the original versions
say musty old hall. Now it actually says the rustic old hall, not musty, rustic. He actually did make that change,
and those he does in live performance. It did in live performances. There's another change. You know the other change?
The other change is what the cook said when he came on deck. Instead of
7 p.m.
At 7 p.m. the main hatchway caved in, and the original is, "Fellas, it's been good to know you." In the live versions, what did he change it to? You know he changed it.
Yes, I do know he changed it. Oh, the main hatchway gave it. He changed it to at 7 p.m. it grew dark and dim, or something like that, because we don't know that the main hatchway gave it.
Correct, and after all the dives and everything,
correct.
They said that all the hatchways were still intact.
He just updated the lyrics for his live performances.
Correct.
He did not change. Well, I mean, he can't change the original recording. Obviously, it's the original.
Well, yeah. Hold on, I'm actually going to pull it up. You and your dang aftermath. What changed? No, that's not what I want. Metallurgy in the wake of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Okay, that we're definitely not getting into. That is entirely too much math for me.
I've already dived. I have only just brushed over the surface.
Let me actually put in lyric changes so I can actually. Okay, in the original lyric, at 7 p.m. a main hatchway caved in, he said, was changed to at 7 p.m. it grew dark. It grew dark and dim.
Yes.
It was then, he said.
Yes.
And that's the change that they made in the actual lyrics and everything going on there.
Right. Because we don't think the main hatchway gave in.
The reason why they made the change is because of all the dives and everything that they had done. And it was discovered that the hatchways were still there, and it was split up and on the bottom.
Right. Right.
And with which changed what they originally thought.
Right. He just dealt with the newest evidence.
Yeah. And of course, the newest evidence, he just changed the songs
Right.
as it goes along. But then, in a musty old hall in Detroit, they prayed in the Maritime Sailors Cathedral. Church bell chimed till it rang 29 times for each man on the Edmund Fitzgerald.
They still ring that bell.
They still ring the bell, yes.
Every year.
But also,
it's not a musty old hall.
It's the rustic old hall.
That is correct.
Yep.
And she's not a cathedral. There's no bishop. She's a church.
True. Yeah.
and something else.
But cathedral fits better with the flow of the song.
Exactly. Okay. Now, I say we name these guys, and then we talk about what we came to do. Talk about how close.
You know what I want to hear first? What did they do with the bell that they took off the ship?
She is in that musty old hall, I believe. The original bell. She was restored by the University of Michigan, I think. And
Probably.
She's on display in the Mariners Museum, which I think is part of that rusty old hall.
Rustic old hall.
Rustic old hall. Musty old hall, rustic old hall.
Yeah.
But, yeah, she is displayed in a case. The original bell and the replica bell that went down has these names.
The one that they put back on the ship.
They put it back on the ship.
Okay.
With a can of beer in the pilot house, which is cool. Oh, well.
I'll probably just end up bleeping it like I did mine.
Just bleep.
But, okay. Let's save the actual memorial part of it for the actual end of the episode.
Okay.
For the actual end of it before we actually do our outro.
Okay.
But
deep dive?
Yeah, deep dive.
I believe Gordon Lightfoot he took a tragedy 1 year later. He wrote the song because he had read the word Edmund spelled wrong in a newspaper article. He read it as, he saw it, E-D-M-O-N-D. The spelling is E-D-M-U-N-D, Edmund Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
And he thought, nope. And then he wrote a song that was amazingly accurate. Dude, every time I hear it and I read this, I'm blown away.
Another thing that was actually on, your battery is running low.
Oh.
Another thing that was actually on the Gordon Lightfoot website is it had rolled around in his head for so long before. I want to say it's his wife. That might be wrong. That might be the wrong person. But somebody close to him was finally like, you know what? I'm tired of you. I'm tired of hearing you humming and singing this song in the background.
Write this down.
Just write it down and record it. And
make this happen.
Yeah, make this happen because I'm tired of hearing you do this.
I've heard that a few times.
Well, yeah, okay.
But
and the other part about it, we've talked about the 29 men, including the captain that went down with the ship. So the captain, 28 crewmen. He did not give the rights of the song to anyone except for, like karaoke companies when they came around. And then once he'd gotten all of his money and everything off of it, but he didn't really want the money off the song and all this because he was making so much off everything else as well. He actually gave the rights of the song to the
29 families.
To the families of the 29 people.
Gordon Lightfoot, are my hero, brother.
That
That
right
was cool. That was
Yes.
an amazing thing to do.
And it also,
Now,
but
if
it
you
also
wanted
held,
to,
it also held his legacy to that song. Because now,
if you want to perform that song as a cover, you have to get permission from 29 families, and we're 2 generations deep into some of these families from
oh yeah,
1975.
3 in some cases.
Yeah, probably.
Excuse me.
So, yeah, this song will never be covered legitimately because it
Now,
just
you can probably do the cover in a live show, but you're not actually going to be able to record it and
correct.
sell it.
Right. Yeah, you could never sell a cover of this song. And I respect what he did because
Oh, that is
those families get a portion of the royalties now.
yeah, from every single
Which-
time somebody streams it, downloads it, pays for the album, actually goes out and buys the vinyl album or goes out and buys the CD or the cassette or whatever in the world that they get off of it. Yeah, I know I'm dating myself. I'm going back to vinyl. I mean, come on.
I
But
would
yeah,
say
you
8-track, but
Okay, even the 8-tracks. If you buy an 8-track, a new 8, which you're not going to find a new 8-track on it. But yeah, part of those sales go to the 29 different families. And I mean, I'm pretty sure that right there has put a lot of kids through college.
you know what? I respect Gordon Lightfoot for what he did, for holding on to those rights. And then, granted, he made his money. Cool. He wrote a great song. And
Yeah,
again,
he did.
I'm going to say phenomenally close to the historical
Better he did.
event. I believe he did a great job.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you will notice that we are now wearing completely different clothing because it's 2 days after we filmed the last episode, and yeah, my camera kind of died on the last one right before we started getting into all of the memorial stuff. So, we're going to go into reading the names on the memorial for all of the 29 people that were actually lost on the Edmund Fitzgerald. And we're going to start off with Dave.
All right. Captain Ernest McSorley.
First mate, John McCarthy.
Second mate, James Pratt.
Third mate, Michael Armagast.
Chief engineer, George Hall.
First assistant engineer, Edward Benden.
2 here. Second assistant engineers, Thomas Edwards and Russell Haskell.
For the next names for the rest of the crew, we are going to say their names, their first name, their last name, and then the position that they held on the ship. Fred Beecher, porter.
Thomas Benson, oiler.
Thomas Borgson,
Ferguson.
maintenance.
Oliver Champeau, third assistant engineer.
Nolan Church, porter.
Ransom Cundy, watchman.
Bruce Hudson, deckhand.
Alan Kalman, second cook.
Gordon McClellan, wiper.
Joseph Mazes, wiper. Nope, special maintenance man. Sorry.
Eugene O'Brien, wheelsman.
Carl Heckle, watchman.
John Poviach, wheelsman.
Robert Rafferty, steward.
Paul Ripa, deckhand.
John Simmons, wheelsman.
William Spangler, watchman.
Mark Thomas, deckhand.
Ralph Walters, oiler.
David Weiss, cadet.
Blaine Wilhelm, I about said warrior. I don't know why. Oiler. All right, ladies and gentlemen, those are the 29 men and women that we lost on the Edmund Fitzgerald when it went down. So, to them, we give a toast, and for all the fallen. And the Oilers on that ship, they had a very special job. Where I went up and actually, looked at one of the other iron boats that they had up there at the museum in Cleveland. The Oilers actually had to have an oil can in their hand, wait for the piston to go down, and then they had to stick their arm in real fast and oil the shaft, and then pull their arm back out before the piston went back up.
Now, I'm sure y'all will know this reference. There was a comedy about a submarine, a World War II submarine, Kelsey Grammer, he has to sneak into port, and he's fighting. Oh my God!
Oh, that was
McHale's Navy.
No, it wasn't McHale's Navy. Sorry, that's
no.
It was a remake.
That's assistant producer John over there that you can see off
Anyway,
that you can't see because he's off camera.
They actually kind of show the open engines where you can see the pistons just going up, and they run around with oil cans and have to oil because everything's open. This is not like a modern car engine.
No, thank God for oil pumps.
Yeah.
And fully enclosed internal combustion engines. But, all right. So that's pretty much
to
all
the
we have to do.
29 again, and their families. We feel your loss.
And for all the ones that are gone, thank you for your sacrifice, or just the fact that you went down doing what you were supposed to do.
Cool.
So, on top of that, we ready to close out?
Ready to close.
All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us tonight. This has been the History in Music podcast. If you're following us on YouTube, please, by all means, hit that like and subscribe button and that little bell so you know when we release new content. We're going to try and be putting out content at least every, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
We're going to do at least one a month, but we're going to try and put out another episode at least every 2 weeks. And if you're listening to us on any other podcasting things like that, please leave a rating and review down for us.
Be nice.
And also, if you're following us on YouTube, please leave a comment down below. We will try and respond to everybody's comments. And really just getting us out there really helps us out with the YouTube algorithm. So, other than that, this has been History and Music Podcast. I am Spencer Robbins.
I'm Dave Faulkner.
And we thank y'all, and we'll see you next time.